Sorry.
Well, hi, how are you?
Hello, everybody. This is Natasha at OHCS. We'll just, folks are joining, so I'm going to give folks a few more minutes to do so. Thank you. Okay, hello, everybody. Continuing to add people from the waiting room. I think the pace is slowing for those joining, and we've got critical mass here. So I want to thank you all for joining this conversation.
You got cut off again, Natasha.
Okay. I'll have to pay attention as to whether I get muted. Okay, so we are in a in a Zoom meeting here. Obviously, I think if you we want to just make sure folks remain muted so that there's not so we're not picking up other sounds. That would be helpful. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so I can walk through a PowerPoint here. Get my screen back. Okay. Great. Well, thank you all for joining today. I know there's just a lot of questions that folks are having about our announcement around the updates that we need to be implementing to ensure consistency across our Article 11Q bond resources. And so today I'm just wanting to kind of kick off more of a conversation around this and unpack what the impact and intention of the updates are, as well as to have a mechanism to both share with you draft documents and a couple of those key documents, as well as a forum and a way to give us some feedback and express concerns and interests about these updates. So first, in terms of setting the stage, this is a really exciting time for OHCS as we see a lot of attention to the critical housing need across the state that folks are experiencing. Corresponding with that, we're seeing a large and ongoing expansion in funding that is being queued up to be able to be dedicated to the expansion of affordable rental housing across the state. There is a new public emphasis on housing and homelessness statewide with Governor Kotek, both executive orders around homelessness as well as executive order 2023-04, which is established very aggressive development targets with over 18,000 units estimated or directed to be funded for affordable use every year. And this is a development pace that is essentially around 5 times that which OHCS traditionally has been able to fund in a year. And so really wanting to make sure that as we deploy resources, we're doing so in a way that is able to meet that scale and that level of demand and level of resources. Of course, with new opportunities, we have a new level of scrutiny for the agency and the work that we do. And so as we scale up our operations, we want to standardize and streamline Part of that is moving toward templates where it is really clear where OHCS and the state has the ability to negotiate versus where we have non-negotiables. And I think the spirit of these updates is to be able to be incorporated into a template where those really clear roles and distinctions are established and laid out. And so that is where we are here today to talk really around the Article 11Q bonds. And these resources are used both to fund our LIFT, low-income housing, local innovation fast track housing, as well as our permanent supportive housing PSH resources are both funded. The development resources are both funded through Article 11Q bonds. So first today, I'm going to just kind of review the history and the use of the Article 11Q bonds for affordable housing development, review the 4-document updates, share those template documents, the drafts that we currently have that are put forward through our Department of Justice, and then circulate a survey to be able to really gather everybody's concerns and information from that, and then I'll lay out some next steps that we'll be taking. So first, I will just kind of do a harken back to the days of first LIFT projects, which in 2017, we met with the first cohort of LIFT projects. And what you see here on the picture is pictured on the slide is an excerpt from that presentation. And the kind of points of interest were a little bit different than we are tackling today, but the information has all really been consistent, and that the Article 11Q is an article of the state's constitution, and it allows this bonding and this bonding authority for property that is real or personal property owned and operated by the state. And so with that in mind, the key pieces of information that we need to be able to carry through to allow these resources to be utilized for affordable rental housing development or affordable homeownership development across the state is to ensure that these are resources that are intended to benefit the state, that the resources retain and stay with the project, and that part of this is that loan agreements ensure that the state interests cannot be foreclosed on without a repayment obligation, and that it has to meet an operational test. And so these are these core tenets of Article 11Q bond resources, which we have been working within and under for the past 6+ years, which makes me feel like we've been at this for quite some time. And this is a refresh and not a redo, I think. So as we know, when we are looking at this from the earliest use of this resource for affordable rental housing development, we are wanting to make sure, because of the source of this resource, that we're really clear about what the state is getting in its use and in its investment of Article 11Q bonds. And the 3 main pieces of that is that there's operational controls included, that the resource that's being invested in, that's being purchased with this, is a permanent asset that furthers a public purpose. And obviously, in this case, the public purpose is affordable housing and serving low-income Oregonians, and that there is it has a broad public benefit versus a private benefit. And so in kind of real practical terms, trying to drill that down into how the changes that have been put out there are ensuring a public purpose and operational controls are really threefold. One is that affordability is set and it cannot be foreclosed on without the state triggering a repayment obligation. So as long as the state is not affordability controls, affordability restrictions remain and exist within the project, then the state would not need to be paid back. But in a circumstance where we are foreclosed, we would have a repayment obligation. There is operational controls, And so the perspective on that is that if we are allowing another agent to act on our part, then we are essentially ceding our operational controls. And so OHCS can't have another party act as its agent. And then the state must be in a first lien position, but we are able to share that first lien position. And so because there is no chat function in here, in order to share the draft documents, we've uploaded it into the survey, which you'll also be using to provide feedback from. So if you just go to https://bit.ly/xiq survey. And you can, so if you can go to that, I will also follow at the end of this meeting. I'll send an email to everybody with these links and the documents. But if you go to that link, if it'll let me go. I think, do you see my web page now? So if you go to that link, again, it's the bit.ly/xiq survey. If you go to that link, you'll be able to see this web page, and you'll see a link to the draft intercreditor agreement and a link to the draft priority and subordination agreement. I'll go back to my other share. Okay, so so you can access the draft documents through that survey link. And now I'm just going to, while you have those on the web page, I imagine, want to just talk through the 4 basic updates that were made to these documents. And these are with really 4 key things to ensure that 4 pieces are represented really consistently across these documents. So first, we need to confirm affordability requirements survive foreclosure by any entity other than OHCS, meaning that OHCS would need to be the one foreclosing on our affordability restrictions, that we are including in here continued ability to share first lien position. Number 3 is that we are maintaining our operational control by removing authority to act as agent on behalf of OHCS. And number 4, that pro rata shares of proceeds after an OHCS directed foreclosure, where the affordability restrictions are also being foreclosed on. So I'll just now walk through a little more detail on each of those 4 points. So first, affordability requirements survive foreclosure by any entity. So again, this is going back and it's affirming that our affordability restrictions are the thing that the state is purchasing, and it needs to persist and maintain outside of, or it cannot be foreclosed on. This is what the state is paying for with these Article 11 Q bond resources. And related to that, in a situation where the state does choose could choose in the future to foreclose on the property, including affordability restrictions, the state would require some pro rata repayment of those resources. If the restrictions remain in place, that is not the case. Secondly, shared first lien position. This really didn't have too much impact to the documents. This has always been the same and hasn't really evolved and shifted across different versions of these documents. It just affirms again that affordability requirements can't be foreclosed on by any joint first lien holder. But we do allow another, to share that first position. third, and I think this is the topic that I've talked the most with folks about, is that we have removed authority to act as an agent on behalf of OHCS. And this is all tied in part of being requiring that we have adequate operational controls. And so essentially wanting to ensure that where that we don't have another party in the that is able to, on behalf of the state, trigger either a foreclosure or a elimination of our affordability requirements, or even those operational controls that are built into the operating agreement. And so with that in mind, and the need to have deliberate actions of operational controls, we are removing the authority to act as an agent on behalf of OHCS. I'm just reiterating exactly what's on that slide, I guess. Okay, and then lastly, the pro rata share to proceeds after OHCS directed foreclosure. Again, this is in a case where OHCS decides to also pursue foreclosure and inclusive of our affordability requirements. And so that is the case where if we are wanting to foreclose on the affordability requirements, the state would require a pro rata repayment of resources. Where there might be a foreclosure by the other lender, but our affordability remains in place, that's not the case. So it's really talking about the circumstance where OHCS is directing foreclosure and intends and believes that the affordability restrictions would be foreclosed upon and removed from the property as well. So I know that was quite a lot and rather quick as well. I think we are, I guess I'm feeling really emphatic, wanting to make sure that as we are getting feedback, that it is being able to be vetted and seen against the draft document. So you have those documents now. Again, if you go to the link that's on the screen right here, you'll see those first links to the draft intercreditor and the draft subordination agreements, as well as then we will also have a survey there where we're asking you to provide feedback on each of those 4 components of the documents, as well as a general catch-all for any other feedback questions that you might have. I'm hopeful that if you are able to kind of walk through that survey, walk through the documents in the survey, provide input into that today, we'll kind of start triaging and working through the questions that you have submitted, and we'll keep the survey open through tomorrow as well, in case you would like a little some additional time to provide questions or comments. I will also just indicate we have I have scheduled a meeting with lenders specifically to really dig in from the lender perspective to get more questions, feedback, and kind of additional thoughts and considerations. So we'll be doing this broad outreach as well as some targeted outreach with the lender community to really focus our efforts. And we are working closely with the Department of Justice, Hawkins State Bond Council, and ORIC Conduit Bond Council, to make sure that we are trying to balance the needs here, ensuring compliance with this resource, as well as developing a template that can be used and executed to support transactions moving forward. We are, so as you have questions and input, please do provide that information in through that survey. Also, make sure on your transaction side to keep your production analyst informed on your project status. We'll be working, with our pipeline projects to make sure that we're getting in front of and addressing issues and concerns as they arise. knowing again that we're balancing all of these needs. I am, let's see, the questions that you're putting together into these for us, we will be compiling responses to those questions. Depending on the number and scale of those, we will publish a draft Q&A this week. If we haven't gotten through all of the questions, we'll continue down the list and continue to update them. We have from this email, from this meeting, registration, everybody's email, so we'll be able to share that directly with the list of folks on this call, as well as be able to share it with our broader technical advisory list. And the links that you find in that survey to the draft documents will still be usable outside of that survey.
And can I ask you one little question?
Sure, Robin, yeah.
When is this effective? Like this change, is this like now? And all documents going forward are going to have these changes in them, and anything that maybe was in process. I don't think I have anything like in that stage, but just in general to understand, when is this change effective?
Yeah, I mean, effectively, and if anybody from Department of Justice wants to chime in, but I believe my understanding is that these changes are, I guess, the updates to align all of the language are, it's effective immediately that we need to do so. And so in as much as these are the components that are provide us with security against, compliance with our resource. And so we are putting them into place immediately. I do, and to that end, we'll be, as we kind of work through conversations this week, we'll be working directly with project teams that have deals in the pipeline. I believe we have one project that's set to close in April. We have several others that are set to close in May. And so time is of the essence to get through and get to these the clarification that we all need to be able to move these transactions forward. But we, having raised the need to make these changes, we are not able to step away from them. Steph, I see your hand.
Yes, thank you. I guess my question is, my deal is the one that is set to close in April, and we just found out this information last week. And, as I've heard from the investment and lending community, they've reviewed what you've went over today and have found that these provisions make them unable to actually participate in deals. So what is the game plan? Here we are, really close to closing. What is the game plan by OHCS on how to ensure that our deal is able to close if we don't have debt or equity in the deal?
I think, I think our top priority is to try to ensure that you can have debt and equity in the deal. And so I think that is, as we are actively many times a day meeting with our council to talk through issues and constraints, I think are looking to really identify what the clear pinch points are and what strategies there might be to be able to inform templates. But we will, and again, we're engaging with lenders. I believe your lenders are involved in that call.
Sure.
And I think we'll know a lot more after we have that conversation with them tomorrow. And I'll include any of those updates in our communications this week.
I think it's just really challenging because we have all of our approvals and we already had the lift documentation circulated out for comments, and then to get the change that is really kind of drastic changes in the programs with respect to, it's not the first two items that you discussed, it's the last two with the foreclosures and the pro rata share of proceeds for foreclosure that I understand that's really giving, debt and equity a hard time. But I can imagine for many developers, if they can't get to the finish line with closing their deals, that you're going to have some smaller developers, I think that may not be able to make it. You know, we're spending millions of dollars in pre-development. We're working on these projects, you know, day and night tirelessly. And then at the final minute to kind of have the goalposts changed and pushed out doesn't seem very fair. To me, what seems fair is to have a moratorium on these deals right now, that, you know, when the lift was issued and that we've gotten through our approvals, let those go through. I mean, you guys have been operating with that money for a number of years successfully, pairing it with 4% and getting to the finish line and closing. Let these deals continue on under that same premise. And then while you are forging the new language, you know, you get all different kind of feedback and participation, rather than trying to put this forth while a deal is closing, can be really catastrophic to the deal. I mean, right now with interest rates, you know, cost increases, you know, everybody that's a developer on this call knows how incredibly hard it is to get to the finish line, and to have something like this change at the very last minute just doesn't seem like a fair game, right? You know, in development, we really seek to have predictability, at least for many things, right? There's some things that you have to project for and whatnot, but predictability and assurance of execution is critical when we're putting out all of our resources and funding. So I really worry about all of the developers that have projects like this in the pipeline that's spending a lot of resources and money that may not be able to get to the finish line. And this would create, in our particular deal, you know, a sizable gap. If we don't take the lift funding, right? One that we couldn't recover from, you know, like about $6 million, versus if we don't take the debt and equity, we're talking about $30 million gap. So these are both gaps that just really at the last minute don't work. So I'm hoping that OHCS will make some consideration for these slug of deals that are really caught in the crosshairs of this. Because I think, you know, if you look at what the governor is trying to accomplish, this is a step in the opposite direction with respect to production goals. I could go on and on, but I'm sure there's other people that have some comments. And I just appreciate, like, I understand how hard this is, and you being the communicator. So thank you for, you know, taking the time to convene this meeting. I think it's really important, and it's no slight to you. I, you know, don't kill the messenger. I get where you're coming from. So just, you know, understand we have to share this feedback with you to know what's going on.
Yeah, I do appreciate that, Steph. And I think, you know, I think all of our preference is that this is clear, it is predictable, it is not something that is changing on you. And so I do apologize for these circumstances. And I just, again, we're committed to working through this and doing everything that we can to make sure that our deals remain viable and compliant. Jill?
Hey, Natasha, I want to first of all thank you. You are the messenger, so we appreciate you giving us the opportunity to listen and also to see the documents. I want to reiterate what Steph said, which is, you know, PHB is the one who is supporting Steph in her project that is closing in April. So I'm hoping that we might see some kind of exemption. I understand, you know, you all have to do what you all have to do. My second question is related to the issue that you mentioned about own and operate. And I know this in the past when PHB had the Portland housing bond, we had that same issue of own and operate, because that's a requirement of bonds. You know, you can call it state issued, government issued bonds, right? Has this been reviewed in light of the constitutional amendment that was passed in 2018? And does that mean that, is there ways in which we can change how the Article 11Q bonds are drafted so we do not require the own and operate in any of our future Article 11Q bonds? Because it no longer is required in any bonds that is related to affordable housing.
Natasha, this is Kristen. Can I step in?
Absolutely. Yes, Kristen.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Kristen Galino. I'm the attorney in charge of tax and finance for the Oregon Department of Justice. And I'm going to actually ask at this point that we send all the questions and all of this really, really great feedback that we're getting, because this is exactly what we were hoping for, through the survey, because we have over 165 participants now in this call, and we are not going to, unfortunately, be able to give the same bandwidth to everybody on this call, and I certainly don't want us to miss anything that's really important. And I also, don't want Natasha to have to keep fielding all these questions that we've asked her not to answer until we get an opportunity to take a look at all of your questions and answer them in the most thoughtful way possible, because it is really difficult to answer a lot of really technically legal questions on the fly. So Natasha, did we have anything else that we wanted to kind of disseminate to everyone else today, or can we let everybody go?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think absolutely. I know that we have that there's folks wanting to put their for the good of the order comment in here. But to the degree to which we can focus feedback directly to the agreements and to the specific barriers in the survey, we'd really appreciate it. It'll help us streamline our work as we unpack the feedback and put together, as Kristen said, really comprehensive responses to it all. And so that would be great. I think this really accomplishes what I wanted to make sure we could do today, which is to share draft documents. I think responding to draft documents is probably more practical and helpful and actionable than just a bullet point list, and then we can get some more feedback from you all. And so to the degree to which you can provide feedback today, that would be great. If you need another day, please do take it. We'll continue to pull updated questions into a question and answer document that we will begin sharing this week, and continue to evolve that as we have more information moving forward, and we'll be sure to work
Natasha,
with everybody with transactions. Yeah.
Hi, this is Anthony Caso. And so to that point, I understand. Well, again, thank you for organizing the forum. And I understand the need for, for your process to solicit feedback through the survey and comments on the documents. However, the program and the existing documents have been in place for about 6-7 years and have been working really well. And so while we will all get comments and feedback via the survey and the documents, a 24-hour response period is just simply not enough time for the stakeholders on this call to respond in a meaningful way. And I would ask that you keep the survey open for a longer period of time.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that feedback. So as you wish, so we can keep the survey open through the week. I think, well, again, we'll pull early questions that are submitted, continue to have conversations so that we can be, sharing information back. I do feel like time is of the essence, and appreciate also the indication that you need more time to review and consider the implications. So I appreciate that, and we can keep it open.
Thank you.
Great. And then I just to wrap up, I see Shelley and then Brian. Other thoughts that you would like to raise in front of the group, and then we can close the call. Shelley?
Just a quick question. There's another LIFT document, the project management agreement. Is that going away with this new iteration? Or I didn't see a draft document of that having any changes. So is it going to stay the same, or is it going away, or you just haven't got?
I think that is a great question. So you're very quiet, but I heard you asking if the project management agreement is going to stay in place. or be revised. I'll wrap that into the questions because I'm not aware of changes to that, but I don't believe that this eliminates any documents. But we will follow up with it in our FAQ. Thank you. Brian?
Hi, Natasha. Hi, everyone. Thank you for doing this. I just wanted to clarify something. It wasn't clear to me. So for projects that are under construction, that have already closed and are under construction, does this change impact those documents? Or is this just on deals that have not yet closed and are going forward?
I think you can check in with your production analyst to be sure to a largest degree, these documents are executed at construction closing, so would be impacting the pipeline moving forward.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, well, we'll roll that into our FAQ as well. So I appreciate everybody's time. Again, as I will close this meeting out, I'll put together an email to be able to send you a copy of this PowerPoint as well as the direct links to the document and the survey. And we'll keep the survey open at least through this week, if not longer, but the sooner you want to input questions, please do. Really appreciate everybody's time and attention to this and partnership in providing housing across the state and in getting these issues figured out with us. I really appreciate you all and happy Monday. Thank you.